Hey, here's a short video of the Kenda Stumpjumper's Desert 100 Adventure Dual Sport Poker Ride. This place is massive. Fortunately, got hooked up with a good place to park by my friend Ken, and ended up communicating with a couple buddies from the PNW Dual Sport. Ryan here on his DR 650, and a friend of his who I just met at a previous ride, Bavarian David, both on DR 650s, what they called their bush pigs. So on Saturday morning, rousted those guys out of their nice cold tents. We got our stuff together and we rolled into town. This is the big town of Odessa, Washington. Our goal here was just to get fuel and then roll up the highway about 8 miles and turn into the dirt and start our poker ride. We quickly figured out that none of us knew exactly where we were going, so we were trying to figure out, do we go straight, do we go right back over to where the camp is, what do we do? So we decided, I'm pointing, hey, let's pull this thing over, we'll look at the GPS. I had gotten the tracks the night before, and we'll see what we got to do to get this party started. Figuring out quickly where we needed to go, we got cruising back down the road, went up maybe a mile or so, and found the turn-in into some sweet high-speed gravel. We were cruising this in the 50-mile-an-hour range. Wasn't terrible, fairly smooth. Every once in a while you come across like a rut that had dried out that would pucker you up a little bit, but a lot of mix of this stuff between the single track. So 140 miles, I would say that we had, maybe 20-30 miles pavement. We probably had 50 miles of single track, and the rest of it was stuff like this in between the single track. So everything we saw was, just looking around, it was just farmland forever. So we'd see a few buildings, a few farmhouses, scrublands, and then just fields and fields and fields as far as the eye could see. We finally got to turn into our first piece of single track here, and for me this was pretty exciting. I'd only done about 100 yards of single track on my motorcycle ever. I've done a lot of fire roads, I've done some 2-track at a nice off-road park a few times, but true single track, this was all new to me. Didn't know what to expect. I quickly found out that this Eastern Washington single track was going to be this open land, fairly narrow dirt trails, winding your way sometimes fairly tight through this sagebrush, occasionally getting surprises coming around the corners and finding steep ups, steep downs, some rock sections through gullies, things like that, constantly being kept on your toes from crawling along to just these, wrapping it wide open, hauling through stuff. Here I kind of got confused for a second, didn't know if the trail went to the right or to the left. By the time I figured it out, it was a tight switchback. So I got a little hung up, had to do a little herking and jerking on the bike to get this thing backed up, but It's hard to tell from video, but this is a steep climb, and my bike crawl right up this stuff. I found out very quickly that it does like to just crawl up these things. It has no problem getting stuck, which I wish I would have thought of with some of my future endeavors that we will see on some steep hills where I didn't do so well, and if I'd have just slowed it down and tractored it, I'd have probably had a better time. This was some of that dropping into a little gully, lots of rocks. Again, video just doesn't seem to do this stuff justice. Just bouncing the front and the rear of the bike around, getting a little hung up, trying to figure out what I got to do here. But I get the bike going and crawl it along at a comfortable speed for me to get myself through this and up and out the other side. So again, we go from these gravel roads back into the scrublands, the farmlands, and back into single track to get ourselves rolling, gathering up, making sure that we're all right. Do we need anything to eat, drink? Are we cool? And then rocking on. Man, there were hundreds of people out on this ride, so we'd occasionally catch up to people, everybody being very polite, cruising along, letting everybody do their own thing, honking, maybe revving the motor a little bit, let them know that we're there, but again, being polite, wait until we get to a little bit of a wide spot, and then coming around them. And believe me, this little clip of me following somebody and then getting around them doesn't do justice to how many people passed me. Wide variety of bikes out there. Me, I'm more of what I call the larger adventure bike. Here was like a Tiger 800. There were G650s out there. Lots of different types of bikes, KTMs, all that. But also then, as you see here, getting passed by these smaller enduro style bikes. And these guys just ripping it up. Not only better skills than me, but these bikes just really designed for this fun, tight, twisty stuff. So everybody got to play, everybody tried to have fun, be safe, and be nice to each other. And coming into this little section, I kind of psyched myself out. There was a little gully, some loose rocks. I thought, I'm going to go way to the left. It looks pretty smooth. And of course, that totally screwed up my line. Stalled me out, had to get the bike re-going again, and I don't know, again, you can't hardly tell, but this is really steep. And I'm like, alright, I'm going to get this thing rolling, I'm going to pop up on the pegs as fast as I can, and I'm just going to brap it up here. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video, my bike does a great job of crawling up this stuff. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but instead I just started gunning it, and then lost it, and down I go again. And here we get to see Ryan, young and dumb, get a little air off his DR650, showing off. I don't do that stuff anymore. I keep firmly attached to the ground. Here we also see Ryan checking out some of the steep climbs. He's like, alright, we'll try this one to the right. And as we're hanging out there, another group comes by, and they're all just going up the normal trail. And then, there's one guy in the group that's like, hey, what's this? And decides he's going to go ahead and blasto straight up the super steep one. Gets a little crazy, leg hanging out, but he completes it. And with that, Ryan says, hey, I can do this. And he decides to just balls to the wall, get a little air off the top of this thing, and off we go. So many times we pulled up where other folks were hanging out, either resting, drinking, eating, BSing, or working on bikes. And a lot of folks come over asking me what I was riding, telling about the CSC RX3, asking me whether I liked it, whether it was doing all right, and yeah, I was having a blast. It wasn't always dry and dusty. We hit some sections where just the lands, you couldn't really see it, but all of a sudden you saw deep tire tracks, and it was just super slimy. And trying to keep the bikes upright, picking your own line. Fortunately, with the desert being wide, you didn't always have to just follow in the mud ruts, but sometimes you were just paddling and all that. And here's Bavarian David. He's got the Dirt Pig DR650 buried deep, and he was struggling to get it out, so I came over and we got that bike out. Took us a little effort.
What do you want to try to do? You want to try to lift the front wheel out first?
Yeah.
Which way you want to go? That way or this way?
I think we just put it on this.
Jesus, that is stuck. You may have to try to lay it down and drag it down. Shit. Doesn't even want to go. There we go. He's got 15 pounds of mud on the freaking. Go ahead. Right. Rotate the front around over to here.
And out she came. And that, my friends, wraps up a nice sampling of the trails that we rode in Odessa at the Stumpjumper Desert 100's adventure and dual sport poker ride. I was trash, slept like a baby that night. Appreciate you watching, hope you enjoyed it, and hope you can make it out for next year's event. We'll see you there.